Hey everybody, Paul Foster here with Second Hand Productions, and today what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about color correction. Everybody talks about color grading, or they talk about how, the whole process. I just want to focus in on color correction. It's so easy, anybody can do it. I'm going to show you how to do it in just a couple easy steps in two programs, both Premiere and DaVinci Resolve 14, but it's same rules apply to 15. So if you don't go away, just don't run off. When you get back, we're going to get right on that. All right, so here we are, and we're in Adobe Premiere, and I've got this shot here of the lovely Crystal Watson, and this was shot in S-Log3 on the Sony A7S Mark II. And one of the things we learned about this, and if you haven't seen, I did a review on the Sony A7S II where I give you a reason why you might reconsider using that on your next film shoot. But this was shot in S-Log3 at a minimum ISO of 1600 with, in this case, it was had a Metabone speed booster and the Rokinon Cinema glass on it. I think that was on the shot. If not, it was an LS zoom lens. But either way, we have the lovely Crystal Watson here, and she's, as you can see, we have on the left side here, we have our scopes, and we have a waveform. We've got a vector scope here with some clipping ranges, and then we've got the RGB parade. A lot of people get really intimidated by this. Color correction is really just about evening out the colors between 0 and 100. So if you go 0 here, 100 here, 0 here, 100 here, if you just even that out, you're going to get most of your color back. Now, when you shoot an S-Log, that means everything's been stripped out of it. So it's very straightforward. You notice we have like next to no saturation. That's what this means in this shot. And the saturation has been stripped out of it. Contrast is stripped out of it. It's a flat profile. And it's intended to give you the most light range and the most even spread so you don't end up clipping out part of your shot. Sometimes you're going to have, like, you have direct light shooting right into the camera. You're going to get some clipping. There's not much you can do about that. Depending on the camera you're using, the glass you're using, some cameras can do a lot more with that light than other cameras and glass. So it just depends on your equipment. So I'm going to show you real quick. I'm not going to drag this out, but all you have to do is within the Adobe color workspace, it uses the Lumetri plugin. And all you have to do is you go to basic correction. Now you notice I don't have anything selected here. And the reason why is because you have to actually apply the plugin to your footage. So I've got Lumetri typed in over here on my search. So I'm going to scroll down here and I'm just going to grab Lumetri color and I'm just going to drag it onto there. Now I have it here. I'm going to go back to my color. And all of a sudden, it's all happy. Now, right out the gate, you're going to start out with your blacks and your whites. And all this does is it's going to lower your RGB parade down closer to 0 and stretch it higher to 100. So you're not really going to have to go that far down. You don't want to get it to where you start clipping. So just take it where it's going to go, as far as it'll go. And then you've got more things that we're going to work on. So as we work with you see when we pull the whites, it pulls the blacks up. So we're going to bring this down some more. And then we'll start bringing in our shadows. That's going to actually help kind of pull some of that color in. Then we'll bring our highlights up. Right, now you're starting to see this. We'll bring some contrast. When we do the contrast, it actually stretches it. And then you can actually use your exposure, and once again we're gonna keep on going until we feel like we've got enough even spread across this whole area. So we're trying to get as close to 100, close to 0, not too far. You don't want to go too far with it. So you want to keep some of the color left in her face too. You can also select something that should be white. So whatever you feel like should be white in the shot, if I say that this wall over here should be white, it's going to color correct and add temperature, and so then it's going to go into our tint and our temperature here. So this is the blues, and the oranges and yellows, and then down here you got your greens and your magentas. I think it's a cyan up here. And so that affects everything too. As you can see, it's when you color correct it and you color temperature correct it, it evens out all three of these RGB colors. And then we can pull our exposure down, we can bring it up, probably down a little bit, not too high. Still you don't want to go too contrasty, and it starts, you could start losing your image. So looks like that's going to be our range, really. And look at that right there. All we've done is, and we didn't even come close to clipping out on this 100, okay? So if you turn this off, boom, you go from there, and now we've got that. And that is basic color correction. It didn't take any time, didn't take a lot of effort. In the end, you can then turn around and you can add some saturation. If you want to add some saturation, you can. You can pull it out or you can bring it in. It's really your call. And then there you go. There's your shot. So normally you would add saturation back in to the shot, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to see. I really just can't picture this thing going that high. So, and then it becomes a judgment call. You just say, there, that's color graded. So now, how do you do this in Resolve? Similar shot, same actress. And here we go. We got the same setup. We've got our scopes over here. Right now I've got on a parade. I can go to my waveform. I can go parade, vector scopes. I can look at my vector scopes there, or a histogram. But I like the parade. It seems to work for me. So now, once again, I want to select something. If I want to get my tints right out the gate, I can come right down here, select this guy right there, and I'm going to select that same spot. Now we've got everything even. Our whites are evened out. And then here, this is going to, if you go with your primary wheels, you have multiple options here. You have primaries, primary bars, or logs. We'll stick with primary wheels. You also, across the bottom here, you've got your contrast, pivot, saturation, and so on. 50 on the saturation is basically 50 is a starting point. If you go lower, then you're going to be stripping out a lot of color. You go higher, and then you're going to add more color. So hue and luminant mix. What I like about this is I can adjust my blacks, and I can start pulling this guy down. And I start pulling that wheel down, and then I can come over here, and I can start adjusting my whites. You can start to see the stretch. Go with our so bring that. I always kind of mess up what gain is gonna. You go gain, and it's gonna add some. It's almost. We can add some contrast, and that's gonna stretch it back down. Okay. And then I'm not adding color. I'm not doing any kind of color grade. But another thing I can do here is if I feel like we've kind of gotten out of control here, I can pull my blues back down. Right there. And I can switch over to my reds, and I can bring my reds, the highs, back up. And that balances it out. Okay. Now, and the other thing I can do is, if I want to add some more contrast, I can do that. Really get this to fill out. That might be a little bit much on the red. I want to keep the color in her face. Then if you want to really get creative with it, you can select your Luma. You can pull that down. You see that's pulling it. But you can also grab here. You can pull the highlights up. Now, depending on the kind of film you're doing, this starts to get into a little bit creative. You don't want to go too high. You go too high and it's too much. So you want to maintain a certain level. You don't want to go above this 1023, and you definitely don't want to go below 0. But there you go. Now you have it, and this is a straight color correction for me on DaVinci Resolve. And if you did a side by side, you could definitely see the difference between the two images. There's a little bit more yellow in this one than in this one. This one actually resolved. I was able to get a little bit finer color correction on this. So here the light that's hitting her in the face seems to be a little bit yellow in it. And so then if you want to fix that, you could scroll down here and you can go into your curves and you could do a similar kind of thing where I'm going to take some of the red out, take some of the highs out of the red, pull it back down, you know, not too much. Then you can go to the blues, and the blues are, take that up a hair. Now we've got a normal complexion on her, and then we can come down here. You know, we can pull it back down at the bottom, and then we can take it up without clipping it, without getting too bright right there. And it's pretty close. I think there's a little bit of yellow still in this shot. But that's your basic color correction, and once again, you go from that to that, and over here. I don't even think I know how to turn this off over here. Oh yeah, that's right. I think it's Control D. There you go. Control D, Control D. There you go. So I hope you found that video useful. It's basic color correction. Anybody can do it. You don't have to have fancy software to do it. Most editing platforms have some form of color correction that you can put in there. It's usually after you do the color correction, that's when you're going to apply a look. So I hope you found it useful. I say that 3 times now. And if you did, definitely hit the subscribe and the like button. Come back often. We've got multiple projects we're working on, and we're really excited about the support that we get from our audience. So we hope that you like this. And well, that's 4 times I've said it now. And you can hit me up on Paul_SHP at Twitter. And until then,